ChristRighteous Ministries. Full of it? Deconverted Man here. Quote mining and cherry picking are related logical fallacies. The former is one removes a passage from its surrounding matter, distorting the original intent. The latter, more tasty sounding fallacy, is where the full evidence is not considered, and rather, one points to a small data set in order to confirm their position. The YouTuber Almando Calvo from ChristRighteous Ministries posted a well-known quote mine from Darwin.
And this is the point that Darwin's making, is that this is counterintuitive. This isn't what our common sense would lead us to believe. And the first part, which you read, is a common creationist quote mine, where Darwin says, "To think that the eye could have formed gradually over time is absurd in the highest order, I freely admit." And then what he does in the following sentences is explain that, in fact, based on the evidence, which I believe he uses the phrase certainly 2 or 3 times,
Yep.
he goes through and demonstrates that the evidence has led us to draw this conclusion because this is what the evidence supports. So that no matter how counterintuitive it was, like the sun going around the earth versus the earth going around the sun, it is in fact what is supported by the evidence. To try to spin the first part of the quote as if Darwin was just saying the eye couldn't have formed by evolution is to completely disregard the point that he was trying to make.
Even Answers in Genesis knows about this quote mine and says that Christians should not use this. Why not? Well, here's the full paragraph that Darwin actually wrote. Note the part that Almando neglects.
When it was first said that the sun stood still and the world turned round, the common sense of mankind declared the doctrine false. But the old saying of vox populi, vox Dei, as every philosopher knows, cannot be trusted in science. Reason tells me that if numerous gradations from a simple and imperfect eye to one complex and perfect can be shown to exist, each grade being useful to its possessor, as is certainly the case, if further the eye ever varies and the variations be inherited, as is likewise certainly the case, and if such variations should be useful to any animal under changing conditions of life, then the difficulty of believing that a perfect and complex eye could be formed by natural selection, though insuperable by our imagination, should not be considered as subversive of the theory.
In other words, that which seems to be absurd can be shown to be sensible if observation and reason dictate. ChristRighteous Ministries has muted and or blocked me from comments on his videos, as well as others. Then he has the gall to put this up. Come on, man. Really? It's hard to bring anything to the table when you mute and block us. Now, I prefer to attack the argument, and I try to steer people away from attacking the person, but the temptation is very much there to break from that, to suggest all sorts of things about the character of this man. As a former Christian myself, it pains me to see that someone who claims to follow Jesus, who was not in favor of lying, I would think, use such tactics. Still, the man may be a plagiarist, a liar, a con artist, and a bad Christian, but that does not and cannot negate his argument. He doesn't have an argument to speak of, but here we have an example of lazy apologetics in action. Where are all the Christians calling out him on this behavior? Hey, here's this passage in the Bible here, Matthew 18:15 through 17. If your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. If he listens to you, you've won your brother. But if he does not listen to you, take 1 or 2 more with you, so that by the mouth of those 3 witnesses every fact may be confirmed. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him to be as you as a Gentile and tax collector. Pwned! It's odd how many apologists and theists out there fail to uphold these very words they want us to believe matter.